What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? Thank you, Bleacher Report, for having me on to do a post-free agency 1 month out Washington Commanders mock draft. We are officially 1 month away from the start of the 2024 NFL draft, and the most active team in the NFL free agency period was our Washington Commanders. In total, between outside free agents and the guys that we have on the roster already, Washington finalized 20 transactions over the first couple weeks of free agency, starting with tight end Zach Ertz on a 1-year deal, defensive end Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biotish, linebacker Frankie Louvu, running back Austin Eckler, kicker Brandon McManus, guard Nick Allegretti, defensive Cleveland Farrell, quarterback Marcus Mariota, defensive end Dante Fowler, long snapper Tyler Ott, safety Jeremy Chin, safety Jeremy Reeves, Bobby Wagner, Jamison Crowder, Anthony Pittman, F.A. Obata, Noah Igbenogany, Michael Davis, Cornelius Lucas, and we signed a corner from Pittsburgh the other day as well. But the team has been getting absolutely active. Adam Peters is taking over, first-year general manager, a guy that is coming in respected and revered by guys league-wide. And Dan Quinn is getting his second opportunity to prove himself as the Washington Commanders head coach. With all the activity so far in free agency, Washington is now fluid and flexible enough to be as aggressive as they want and attack best player available. The two most glaring holes remaining on the roster are probably the two most important positions in football: quarterback and tackle. You need a guy protecting that blind side, protecting your quarterback, protect the investment. Washington's line was not great last year. We picked up a starting center, and cross your finger, a starting guard in Allegretti out of Kansas City, a guy who was looking for his opportunity to start elsewhere in the league. I'm excited about going into this draft with such flexibility. We need a lot. We're going to be the first team on the clock that was naturally as bad as the pick suggests. Chicago is using Carolina's pick. The worst team in the league is not picking first because they traded it all. They busted open to select Bryce Young last year. So Washington's the first bad team of 2023 on the clock in the 2024 NFL draft. And I did a video on my YouTube channel earlier. If you're not familiar with my channel, Rio Robinson on YouTube. I do a show called Rambling with Rio, where we talk about all things Washington Commanders from an objective, impartial, and unfiltered stance. But let's get into it. Washington Commanders mock draft, post-free agency. The needs are the same, but not really. We attacked edge aggressively, and we have enough bodies, we have enough veterans, young upside at the position that we do not have to force an edge rusher early. So start off this mock draft. Chicago has taken Caleb Williams. That is the widespread speculation to be the number one pick. I mean, a guy they traded for last week, Keenan Allen, showed up to the USC day along with a full Bears contingent. If that doesn't spell that the writing's already on the wall in Chicago, I don't know what to tell you. But the main theme, the main Civil War style debate taking place in Washington Commanders Nation right now is the great Drake May versus Jaden Daniels argument. And until recently, it now feels like JJ McCarthy has firmly entered the chat for a possibility as well. The May versus Daniel debate goes like this. Daniels clearly was the best player in college football last year. He lit the entire country up for 40 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions, ran for almost 1,200 yards and over 10 touchdowns. The boy was lights out. His 5th year in school, he had 4 solid years, solid to all right years, and then absolutely went nuts in his final year, similar to how Joe Burrow did, except there was no national championship or playoff dreams LSU Tigers this year. Drake May, 21 years old, only started 2 years at UNC. He lit it up in 2022, was lights out playing in an air raid system similar to what Washington runs right now under new offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. But he took a little bit of a step back in 2023. His step back year, his down year, still accumulated 3,600 yards and 33 total touchdowns. So I'm firmly content with Washington taking Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Here's where the conversation gets interesting. JJ McCarthy out of Michigan. The buzz is starting to build. Jim Harbaugh literally came out. You know, Jim Harbaugh's going to ride for his guy. A guy he coached, a guy he scouted, a guy he developed into his quarterback and just won a national championship with. So you know he's going to ride for his guy. So it should surprise nobody that Harbaugh is stepping out, sticking his chest out and saying, JJ McCarthy is the best quarterback in this class. He should be the first quarterback taken. That should surprise nobody. That's kind of like your agent stepping out there for you. Your agent, your guys in your circle, your elementary school teacher, your high school coach, they should all step out there. Jim Harbaugh, if you really stand on business and you really felt like he was the best quarterback, go ahead and trade your superstar quarterback, Justin Herbert, and take him. Take him at 5. Show me that you really believe that J.J. McCarthy is the best quarterback in this draft. But he had a very good pro day, even though nobody really got to see it because of technical difficulties and weather down in Ann Arbor last week. Good pro day, very good college career, but we never got to see what the ceiling looks like because Michigan was so stout all over. They're so loaded in the backfield and on the wide receiver core on defense that J.J. McCarthy could literally ride the whip on cruise control. He didn't necessarily have to take over games, throw in the tight windows, or make too many plays over the duration. But, hey, man, if he's the pick in Adam Peters we trust, everything Adam Peters has shown since he's taken over as general manager shows us that we don't know what these guys are doing, but we need to give them the chance, give them the opportunity to go out and build this thing in their vision. But let's get to the draft, man. I'm going with who I think right now actually is the favorite to be selected with this pick. And with the second overall pick, the Washington Commanders are taking the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. I'm not going to discount mobility. Cliff Kingsbury, every quarterback he's worked with so far in his career, college and pros, has been a mobile quarterback. He just gives you an extra element. Maybe they're not looking for the exact long-term who's going to be the long-term better guy. I think Drake May ceiling 5 years from now is a little bit higher as a quarterback than Jaden Daniels, but Jaden Daniels is better right now. We could come in and compete right away with a guy like Jaden Daniels, and we're on to pick number 36 in the second round. But see, in real life, I don't feel like playing with the trade machine right now. I don't feel like doing it, but in real life, I think Adam Peters and company will be on the phones trying to work their way into the bottom of the first round to select the tackle, because the one huge need outside of quarterback is tackle. Our left tackle, Charles Leno, we released him. We don't have anything to offer at that position right now. We re-signed swing tackle Cornelius Lucas, who could play on the left or right side, and we're in year 2 of turnstile Andrew Wiley, EB's guy out of Kansas City, who did not put together a good first impression for the team last year. Tackle is the absolute position of need at 36. I would make the pick in the 20s. Like, I'm packaging a deal to come up in the 20s, but for this mock drafts standpoint, we're going to take a tackle here at 36. And the best tackle on the board is Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. He has shorter arms than a majority of the class at tackle, meaning some guys view him as a guard. Some people view him as a guard because he has shorter arms, but he started hella snaps at the tackle position. We're plugging him in at left tackle, and if push comes to shove, if push comes to shove, you plug him in at guard like Washington did when they took Brandon Sheriff with the 5th pick way back. Jay Gruden was the coach. So with our first 2 picks, we went quarterback, left tackle. That now ends my we need to draft for need segment in the draft. We're going best player available here on out, and we're looking at the board right now. We lost Cam Curl, safety, one of the heartbeats of Washington's defense since he was drafted here a couple years ago. So I'm looking at Tyler Nubin from Minnesota, a pure free safety, turnover machine, ball hawk, center field type guy. Maybe we can go later with like a USC's safety, Kalen Bullock or company, but a position that I feel like a lot of fans are not putting stock into that is a huge need for us as well. It may feel like a luxury pick to some. Washington needs a boundary pass receiver. We need a receiver opposite Terry McLaurin on the outside. Jahan Dotson does not have it on the outside. Jahan Dotson needs to take his ass to the slot. Get on the inside, slotty pin. I don't think he has the play strength and the explosion off the ball to take man coverage on the outside. So I'm putting him on the slot. I need a receiver with some size and some speed opposite Terry McLaurin. I have a guy in mind. I see Troy Franklin on the clock, but I think I have PTSD in drafting frail players, considering last year's first round pick weighed 150 pounds getting wet, and we just drafted the boniest quarterback that exists in the first round. I want a little bit of size on that outside opposite Terry McLaurin. And there's this guy who reminds me of a juiced up Deebo Samuel. I'm talking 6'2", close to 230-pound guy that runs in the 4.3s opposite Terry McLaurin. Is he a one-year wonder? We're going to see on the next level, but I like how he projects. We're taking Xavier Legette, the South Carolina Gamecock. Washington's first 3 picks, we went quarterback, tackle, wide receiver. Offense, offense, offense. I believe we're afforded the right to do so and go heavy off in this draft because we spent so heavily on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. We signed like 1,000 edge rushers, 1,000 linebackers. We got Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner manning the middle with Jamin Davis, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure I peeped it on the Washington Commanders site, Jeremy Chin is listed here as an outside linebacker, not as a safety. So I imagine he's going to be playing some type of hybrid safety linebacker role here. And this is when the draft starts to get fun for Washington. This is when, during our live streams during the draft, it's going to be all fun because Washington has 2 picks in the second round that we just made, and they have 3 picks in the third round now. We had 1 pick originally, but in the Chase Young trade, we got a compensatory late third round pick from the 49ers, and we just did a pick swap with the Seattle Seahawks and the Sam Howell trade and got another third round pick. So we're picking 3 times in the third round of the draft. We went Jaden Daniels in round 1, in case you missed it. We went Jordan Morgan, tackle Arizona, 36, and we went wide receiver Xavier Legette out of South Carolina at pick 40. I know you're probably saying, all right, Rio, it's time to pick a defensive player now. But it's not to do that. We're going to get the trainee, the mentoree tight end, because we got the mentor. We got the old guy that knows the offense, that speaks the language, that's going to be the starter and glorified tight end coach for the team this year, and Zach Ertz. We need a guy for him to train. We need a Padawan. Jatavian Sanders from Texas, come on down. We're getting the second best tight end in the entire class at pick 67 in the third round. You love to see it. Washington's offense is shaping out already. So Cliff Kingsbury is working with an athletic quarterback in Jaden Daniels, with 2-headed monster in the backfield with Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. We now have a 2-headed monster at the tight end position with Zach Ertz and Jatavian Sanders, who's an absolute dog. He honestly is an oversized receiver. He runs routes with the fluidity of a wide receiver. He can line up on the inside or outside. He's going to be a matchup nightmare. Expect to see JT Sanders utilized like Kyle Pitts was supposed to be utilized in the NFL, but Arthur Smith gonna Arthur Smith. So that's why we did not see that. I think now is when we start saying, yeah, we should probably take a defensive player. I like Braylon Trice, the edge rusher. We have to force edge. We could take an edge. We could take a linebacker. I want to add to the secondary. I want to either add a stout outside corner or a nickel guy here for the Washington Commanders. Let's see what's available. And I know exactly where I want to go. I keep being told by people that if there's one position we do not need to worry about under Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., Jason Simmons and company, it's the secondary. So if there's anything to get out of Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes on the outside, I expect these guys to get it. we're going to take a slot corner who I feel like is the best slot corner in this class, the ultimate utility guy, Swiss Army knife, Mike Sandrestill out of Michigan. Come on down. He looks like an Adam Peters football player. When you see Adam Peters describing guys, he fits everything the Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are looking forward to, and they know how to use a Swiss Army knife. If there's anything you can guarantee about the Washington Commanders in 2024 is that the defense will be wholeheartedly and demonstrably better than it was last year when it was the worst unit in the league, because that's what Dan Quinn does. Have your opinions about what he is as a head coach. He almost won a Super Bowl. He should have. He had it in the bag. They gave up a 28-3 lead. But Dan Quinn has not made no stop in the league where he has not turned around a defense. That boy can call them with the best of them. He can scheme them up with the best of them. We're on to pick 100 now to close out the third rounder. This is the third round pick Washington has received in the compensatory trade of Chase Young. We're going best player available. We're not forcing any positions. I see James Williams. That looks like a Dan Quinn guy if I've ever seen him as well. Swiss Army knife. He played safety next to Cam Kinchens in Miami. He's another linebacker safety hybrid. I don't know who's playing actual safety for this team after losing Cam Curl. So we might want to look at what the safety position is looking like as far as the available prospects. If my USC guy, Kalen Bullock, is available, that is a true middle fielder safety. I see Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest, Marshawn Lloyd, the running back. I got a couple running backs I have in mind, but I'm going to wait a bit later to that because the way I value that position is a little bit lower. We need a safety, guys. We need a difference maker at safety. Jeremy Chin, if he hits the ceiling of his earlier years in the league, he may go absolutely nuts here with Dan Quinn and company. But let me see what's available right now. What y'all thinking in the chat? What y'all thinking in the chat for this pick here at 100? Let me see what y'all thinking. I think I'm going to go. I know y'all are sick of position flex and versatile player. I know Ron Rivera is going to trigger you every time you hear those things. I also could go a good size corner, but now I'm not going back-to-back corners. I just took a corner last round. You know what? Let's add some beef and some assurance to the interior of the offensive side of the ball. Let's take Brandon Coleman, tackle convert to guard out of TCU, best lineman on the TCU Horned Frogs. So Jordan Morgan now has a running mate on that left side of the offense. If Nick Allegretti and his injury he suffered in the Super Bowl is not able to get out there on the field earlier, we got another guy that's capable of heating for the starting guard position. So we're going Coleman and Morgan to shore up the left side of the line. I would like a safety and an edge at some point now. I would definitely like a safety and an edge at some point because we're shoring up a lot of rooms here. And one thing I do want to preach to Washington Commanders fans is that Washington will not be able to plug every hole on the roster in 2024. This is not some all-in free-for-all to get a wild card berth this year. This is a real build. Snyder's not here anymore. Josh Harris and company are trying to build a sustainable winner. Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, while they're only on 5-year contracts, they're going to use every bit of that 5 years. It doesn't mean it's going to take 5 years to do it, but we're not trying to shoot our load and risk the entire biscuit for 1 year. We're trying to be good and build something that has a ticket to the dance consistently going forward year after year. Sustainable contention. A ticket to the dance every year. Don't worry about we got to fill them all right now. Everybody we draft has to be a day one contributor. We don't need that. But we're now at pick number 139 in the 5th round, and I see a player I love staring me right in the face. It's one of the running backs in this class that has the best foot speed. We have a bruiser in Brian Robinson Jr. We have a change of pace utility back touchdown machine in Austin Eckler. We need someone who can hit home run, someone with some foot speed in the running back room. We still got Chris Rodriguez Jr., another hard runner, probably the exact heir apparent to what Brian Robinson brings, but with less explosion. We need some juice in that running back room. Give me Caleb Williams guy, Marshawn Lloyd, running back USC. Come on down. He's a little bit of both. He can take carries out of the backfield. He can also catch passes like Bucky Irvin. He has a propensity to bounce every time he gets the ball, bounce it to the outside, but it's all good. I'll take it. This is around the time you want to draft a running back, in my opinion. You want to take a running back later in the draft. Like, the positional value to me is you don't need to take a running back too early in the draft. Joan Ellis is still on the board. I've seen someone mention him as an edge. This is when we get our edge rusher to add to the mix of Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler Jr., KJ Henry, and Andre Jones. And now we have a well-rounded room. We have KG vets. We have young upside and KJ Henry, Ellis, and Jones. That's a well-rounded room. An edge rush room that had nothing. It was bare bones naked when the offseason started. It's now becoming a position of strength for this team. And most importantly, I think we have coaches that are going to put these guys in positions to succeed. We may not have a gaudy 15 to 20 sack guy, but we didn't have that here before. I loved Montez. I loved what Chase Young could have been, but he never became that here in DC. So it's time to move on. We have better defensive coaches here now. Jack Del Rio, I have no idea what was on his mind most weeks when he was the defensive coordinator here, but guys look unprepared. There were communication gaps consistently, and the scheme never seemed to adjust. It felt like a make my system work, let me not adjust my system to the players type of situation. And that's not how you succeed or thrive in this league. And I'm so glad we got that boomer mentality the hell out of our organization, and we get to move forward to actual coaches coaching actual football philosophy. We're moving on to the 6th round of the class right now. Washington has another pick left. We don't have another pick to the 7th round now. We have our final pick coming at 222. And with the 7th round picks, you just take a lottery ticket on somebody. Sometime it hits and you get a Cam Girl who becomes a staple, consistent starter. But for the most part, this is a guy who may not make the team. This is your Mr. Irrelevant pick of your draft class. This is a guy that we'll see. So I want someone, maybe someone who can return kicks, someone who offers some type of position versatility. Like, this is the absolute lottery ticket part of the draft. We've already taken a receiver, a running back. We've taken a lot of positions. Let's take a safety. This is a guy I know that can ball as well. Damani Richardson out of Texas A&M. Look at the draft profile for him. His relative athletic score is not as high as I'd like it to be, but some guys are gamers. Some guys are more athletic once they show up on the actual tape on Sunday. You know what? I'm going to pick quarterback insurance. You know how the Niners traded all those pick trade up for Trey Lance, and a couple of years later they drafted Brock Purdy, and they weren't expecting him to play. I'm going to take Mr. Handsome of the NFL draft. Sam Hartman, the heartthrob out of Notre Dame. I need a end of the roster third string quarterback that doesn't necessarily inspire confidence, but add some insurance to the room. Jake Fromm ain't it. He ain't ever going to be it. Why bring him in when we can add another young guy to the mix, a practice squad quarterback who, if necessary, can come in and get some reps and grow and develop like the rest of the guys here. Sam Hartman is a solid quarterback. He's not going to light it up in any metric. He does not have one elite trait, which is why he's available here in the 7th round. But you never know in this league. Insurance is very important. You do not buy a car expecting to crash that hoe. You do not buy a house expecting to flood it out or burn it down. But you get insurance for a reason. It's kind of like Mike Shanahan's philosophy when he drafted RG3 at 2 and he took Kirk Cousins later in the class. But I know that situation was a little bit different. It was kind of a spiteful pick since Dan Snyder made him select Robert Griffin III with the second overall pick. But this is the draft class I just ended up with here for Washington. I know on the thumbnail I had Jaden Daniels, Jordan Morgan, and I believe I had Theo Johnson, the tight end out of Penn State. I was not predicting anything, but those are three guys I'm looking at. So I said, why not throw them on the thumbnail? Why not? We start the draft off. We take the frail Heisman wonder out of LSU, Jaden Daniels, the fixture at quarterback. We go with Jordan Morgan, who we're plugging in at left tackle and praying the short arms are not a problem for the trajectory of his career. We're taking the speedy, thick boy out of South Carolina, Xavier Legette. We get a tight end who will probably end up starting by year's end, and he will come backing up Zach Ertz. We got a 2 tight end system now. We take the utility cornerback slot guy, Mike Sandstill out of Michigan. Tackle turned guard, Brandon Coleman out of TCU. The speedy dual threat running back, Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. Edge rusher out of Utah, Jonah Ellis. And James Bond, the handsomest quarterback in the draft, Sam Hartman, to be our quarterback insurance going into 2024 and beyond. I think if Washington was to come out with a draft class such as this, we would be good to go. There's a lot of ways this thing could go, and we only got about 30 more days of anticipation of how it's going to turn out. And I can't wait till we get there, because these quarterback conversations, they get more toxic by the day. Guys are willing to sacrifice their firstborn to stand on business about the guy they prefer. I am totally content with Jaden Daniels or Drake May. I see the upside, I see the pros and the cons of both guys. I'm slowly warming up and bracing in case JJ McCarthy is the pick at number 2. I did a video on my channel earlier today about sticking and picking at number 2 versus trading back and receiving a haul. So the Vikings have been positioning themselves to come up the board, to shoot the board like a rocket for a quarterback. They now have picks 11 and 23 and are looking to flip both, plus to get up into the top 5 to 10 to get a quarterback, because Sam Darnold is not the answer for them. That is a Band-Aid. That is a bridge option. And Kevin O'Connell's not going into the season looking for a quarterback. Then we got the Denver Broncos, who just ate the largest salary cap deficit, the largest dead cap in the history of the league, to get Russell Wilson off his roster. That's how much Sean Payton hated Russell Wilson. He ate $85 million just to get him off the roster. They're going to be desperate for a quarterback. The Las Vegas Raiders, like, they're the best thing smoking in Sin City right now. You can't go into the season with a quarterback competition of Gardner Minshew versus Aiden O'Connell going into the year. That's just not going to get it done. That is not going to cut it when you're in Sin City and you have that beautiful stadium with such a hungry, ferocious fan base. That's not going to get it done. And then I'm not one that does business with my enemies. I'm not trying to sit at the table with the New York Giants, but the Giants might be the most feasible team that Washington should consider trading back, if trading back is even a consideration. As we stand here a month before the draft, Washington has showed no interest in trading out of the 2 spot. When you're the second worst team in the league, you should stick at 2 and pick your biggest need, especially when your biggest need happens to be the most important position in all of sports. Quarterback is the hardest job in all of sports. Washington has missed so many times over the years, but that does not mean you stop trying at the position. We finally have an owner, a general manager, and a head coach, all with an aligned vision, can all fall in love with the same guy and select him at number 2. There's no guarantee it's going to work. People miss all the time, but you do not stop shooting your shot because you missed before. Washington is sticking at 2 and making a selection of quarterback, whether that's the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels, whether that's Drake May, whether that's JJ McCarthy, or whether something freaky happens at the top of the draft and Caleb Williams is available. We are not trading out of this pick. We are standing right where we are standing firm and drafting a quarterback. That is all that I have for right now. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Thank you, Bleacher Report, for having me on to talk my stuff when it comes about the Washington Commanders. The day after Washington makes its first pick in the NFL draft, I will be live on the Bleacher Report the following morning, reacting to Washington's pick and previewing what players are available for day 2 in the second, third rounds, considering Washington has 5 picks that day. That's all I got for right now. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Rio Robinson, Rambling with Rio. Until next time, hail to the Commanders. Commander Rio, out. Y'all enjoy y'all Monday.